Hi, everyone. Welcome to Spill the Tea Radio, where we interview awesome singers, songwriters, and those who influence their lives. Spill the Tea Radio explores the journey, creativity, and inspiration behind the songs. My next guest is a singer, songwriter, and writer of other things based in Toronto, Ontario. She is most often seen in the five-piece indie pop band Meteor Heist, making music that has been described as evocative, erudite lyrics against lush and intricate instrumentation. In her writing, she seeks to find beauty and love and complexity in small and strange things. So, let's spill the tea with Lila Wright. Welcome, Lila.
Welcome. Hi, how's it going?
It's going well, thank you very much. In your intro, a few things that pop out up in the intro that we just have to chat about. The first one is Meteor Heist. I'm so intrigued finding out how people name their bands, name their songs, and things like that. So you have a pretty good story about how you named the band Meteor Heist. Tell us about it.
I like to think it's a pretty good story anyway. So Meteor Heist is sort of my main musical project I spend the most time with these days. And it's a five-piece indie pop band based in Toronto. And the name Meteor Heist actually came from two of our other members, our guitarist and our keyboard player, Cameron Stewart and Spencer Duncan Dorton. They've been really close friends since they were really young, since they were in kindergarten. I think they first met, and they've kind of been a duo ever since. And in I think their middle school, early high school years, they developed a tradition of on Halloween going to Dollarama and buying up Meteor bars, which are the kind of knockoff Mars bars that are, I think, Dollarama exclusives. I've never seen them anywhere else anyway. And buying up the entire stock of those on Halloween and then going back to their house and watching Flash Gordon, the 1980 version. And they called it the Meteor Heist. So we just kind of co-opted the name for the band.
You come from a small town in Ontario, Elphin,
That's correct.
Ontario,
Yes,
and you moved to Toronto when you were 14.
that's right.
What was the culture shock for you moving from Elphin to the big smoke of Toronto?
Yeah, well, there certainly was one. I remember the first thing that really, I mean, I was lucky because I actually, it's not like I'd never been to Toronto before. My grandparents live here. I've got family here. So, I was not completely unfamiliar, but I remember kind of the first time it really hit me was when I was going down to Chinatown to meet a friend. And I realized looking on my maps that I could walk there. And that was completely shocking to me because growing up in a small community, a small rural community, there's really not a lot of opportunity to kind of self chariot yourself places before you have a car and a driver's license. And being 14, realizing that I could walk downtown and in 40 minutes be in a completely new neighborhood with completely new things to see and people to meet, it was very shocking to me.
You come from a musical family. Both your parents are professional musicians.
Hmm.
Your mom's grandparents are musicians. Your younger sister, has gone down the athletic path,
Yes.
more so. How was it? How are they influential in your career, in your desire to go into the music profession?
Yeah, I mean, well, I'm lucky that I was able to grow up in a musical family. I was surrounded by music from the time I was born, essentially, to now, and ongoingly surrounded by music, which is, a privileged position to be in. I remember hearing a story about when I was born and first brought home from the hospital. My parents had a bunch of friends over, to come see the baby, welcome Lila to the world, and they put me to bed, and then they told their friend to get on the drum kit and start playing drums, and start playing, and he said, "Won't that wake up the baby?" And they said, "No, she has to get used to it. There's always going to be something loud happening downstairs when she's asleep." So I mean, that was kind of the culture of the household that I grew up in. So I was lucky to grow up in that. I think it influenced me, just in that it was always something that felt so concrete to me. I think a lot of people looking at writing music and playing in bands and making music as kind of a livelihood of any kind, it can feel kind of far off and distant and challenging, especially if you don't have people around you who are able to tell you the ways to make it work and make it possible. So I think partially what influenced me is almost just the family business of it all. It's almost like if you've got a dad who's a plumber and he can tell you, how to fix a pipe. I have a dad who's a guitar player who can teach me how to play a G major. So
Now, at any point, did mom and dad sit you down and say, Lila, this is not a life that you want, or this is the life that's going to be fraught with this and that. As you know, you mentioned a plumber. A father that's a plumber is going to sit his son down and say, son, I'm not sure if you want to be a plumber. Maybe I should, tell you exactly what it's going to be like. Did they have that conversation with you?
Well, you know what? Actually, no. That conversation never came up. I think I remember my mom telling you because my mom's parents are professional musicians as well, and my mom went to school for anthropology originally, and then ended
Wow.
up just kind of finding her way back to music and ended up being a musician herself. But I remember she told me that her dad was relieved when she was going to school for something that wasn't music and thinking like, great, she's out of here. But no, for me, it was always left very open. At the same time, though, I was never forced into piano lessons or music lessons of any kind. It was just sort of something that was a part of the household that I was in. But there was definitely never a culture of like, you don't want to be a part of this, because I think my parents love what they do.
During our pre-interview chat, we talked about busking, and you said, "Well, in a moment of desperation, I did it." Tell us about that moment of desperation.
Well, I mean, we last summer with Meteor Heist, we were going on a tour. We did 15 stops across Ontario and Quebec, which was really a wonderful experience. I continuously have sort of a grudge against Ottawa, Ontario for this reason. It's just impossible to book a show in Ottawa, and I don't know why that is. The venues book up really fast, really far in advance. Even the festival applications in Ottawa close really early compared to the other cities in Canada. And trying to get an Ottawa date on the poster, we did for a time resolve to just go and put the venue name as like a street corner and busk in the park, just to put the date on the poster.
When we talk about that gig that you did, that tour, 15 stops in Ontario and Quebec, and you did that all yourself as a band. You planned that and you
Yeah,
booked that as a band. Tell us about the challenges and how you overcame them about booking like 15 stops. That's a lot of stops.
it's
And
a lot of stops.
anybody
It's
that I've
true.
talked to about planning a tour, we're talking about hotels and meals and transportation because I'm going out on a limb and guessing you don't have a lot of roadies and transport trucks at this point.
No,
So tell us
no.
about the challenges and how you overcame them.
Yeah, well, I mean, I think the first challenge that would be encountered in a situation like that is just having the time to put into booking a tour and spending time. Basically, it's like me and my computer every day at the library, for 4 hours or whatever, emailing and trying to make connections with other bands and trying to get things to work. And I had Google Maps, I think, open for probably 3 months straight and unclosed on my laptop. But the time is a huge barrier, I think, that a lot of people run into. And I was lucky just that my work schedule and my schedule with other things, creative schedule, what have you, kind of aligned to allow me to be able to take on a lot of that booking. And then of course I have really supportive and excellent bandmates who are willing to take on as much work as they can, because we all really believe in the project and believe in each other, which is really a lucky situation to be in. But yeah, I mean, the challenge is finding, I think, venues that are first of all available and are willing to book an out of town band, and then going through and finding other bands that are local to there that are willing to host an out of town band. And I think because of our experience touring and playing out of town, we try and host bands from out of town when they come to Toronto, and do sort of an exchange, or even just host them, because we know that it can be difficult to find someone who's willing to host an out of town band. But we're lucky that we were able to find really great bands that were willing to play with, and really, friendly, lovely people. We have friends across the GTA, and we were able to have a couple of GTA stops with close friends and collaborators. And then it was sort of about finding home bases, like where sometimes adding more driving time because we had a place that we could stay, for an extra couple days. And, it is an hour back as opposed to staying in that town in Airbnb, but it's worth it for, for saving the money and for making the whole thing feasible.
Yes, when you're touring as a young band, there's a lot of couches and friends' floors
Yeah.
that and back seats of cars that you end up
Yes.
sleeping in.
We actually
Just to,
once we did a tour. Not, I mean, we called it a tour at the time, but it was really only two stops in Kingston, and then we played in my hometown. And in Kingston, we had a friend's house there, which we were lucky to have, that she had not yet moved into her kind of university house. So it was completely empty. It was just like four walls and a roof, and nothing, no furniture, no chairs, like truly completely barren. But it's a shelter and a place to stay. So we all brought a sleeping bag, but our keyboard player was sufficiently uncomfortable in his sleeping bag that we went out to the Tim Hortons and we bought their inflatable pool floaty, shaped like a Timbits box, and that was his mattress for the duration of the tour.
you have assembled a great group of people. We know that in bands, there are transitions, people come, they go, but give us the current iteration of the band. Who's in the band and what's their contribution to the
Yes.
musical element?
Well, so I'm Lila, as you know, and I am the lead singer of the band. We have Cameron Stewart, who I mentioned earlier, who is the guitarist. We have Bill Kilbride, who plays bass, Spencer Duncan Dorton on keyboard, and Thomas Carley on drums. We're all people, we've known each other, most of us quite a long time. Most of us went to high school together. Like I said, Cam and Spencer have known each other since they were very young children. Um, and we've been playing music together for a while. In the iteration of Meteor Heist itself, it's been about 2 years since our drummer, our beloved drummer Thomas Carley, has joined us. But that's the current lineup.
How do you know when you've got the right mix of people in the band? Uh, are you always looking around and saying, it's a great band. I love these people I'm working with. There's a weak link that we need to fix. and
No,
and
nothing like that.
you're looking around the room hoping that you're not the weak link.
Yeah.
Um,
Well, you've instilled the fear in me now, David. So that's good. Now, next band practice, I'll have to be thinking about that. Where you find the weak link, but really, with the people that I work with in Meteor Heist, we're all just, very. I mean, they're all just lovely people who I really care for, and I'm lucky to that we all get along extremely well, and we're all really close friends outside of being even in the band together. I know we've played with and spoken to friends who are in bands and aren't able to tour because they don't get along or aren't able to get things together because they're not friendly with each other. And we're lucky because we connect well as people as well as musicians. And I think it's a rare and valuable thing that we have, where we're able to connect well as musicians. And I think we all really admire and appreciate each other as artists and as musicians and as writers and as instrumentalists, and we also appreciate each other as people. And I think that dynamic is what keeps the spirit of the band alive.
Let's get into one of the songs that Lila wrote. This song is track 6 of Meteor Heist's debut self-titled EP, released in May of 2024. The song was written by Lila and Cameron Stewart, recorded and produced by Thomas Carley, and performed by the band Meteor Heist. Let's take a listen to singer-songwriter Lila Wright and her song, Future Fossils. That was Future Fossils by Lila Wright. Lila, tell us, what is that song about and what was the inspiration to write it?
Yeah, well, that song was co-written with me and my friend and collaborator Cameron Stewart and performed by Meteor Heist, so really almost co-written by everyone in the band. But originally, the idea for that song came from I was sitting in my room and looking at a poster of dinosaurs that I have on my wall from the ROM in Toronto, and I was looking at it and playing the guitar and thinking about the extinction of the dinosaurs and thinking about how actually, I heard a term recently that describes the song very well, which is chronocentrism. And I was thinking about how almost every generation has had some sort of idea of apocalypse that's going to happen in their lifetime, and how everyone alive on the earth throughout the generations has kind of feared that they were the last person who was going to do it. The last person to be alive and the first person to experience the end of the world. And I think that's a fear that really binds us and connects us as people. And I think that the negativity and the fear and the sadness that comes out of that experience is also a binding force that's really beautiful and lovely and connects us to everyone who's ever come before us and connects us all the way back to the dinosaurs. So Future Fossils is about being aware that you believe that you are uniquely situated to experience the end of the world and experience the largest scale of disasters, which may or may not be true in whoever's lifetime is feeling it. Being aware that that's the position that you're in, and kind of learning to be okay with that, because it's universal and because fear is not really doing anything to move you out of that position.
Lila, how do people find out more about you and the band? What's the social? What's the website? What are the streaming platforms?
Yes. So we're on all streaming platforms under the name Meteor Heist. That's METEORHEIST, Meteor Heist. On all social media, we're at Meteor Heist Band. That's Instagram, TikTok, Facebook, etc. We mostly are active on Instagram, though, so that's where most of our shows will be promoted and posted, and our singles and all that. And then my personal account, if you want it, is at Lila Wright, WRIGHT, except the I is a 1. And that's all my stuff.
We have been in conversation with Lila Wright from the band Meteor Heist. Lila, thanks for being with us.
Thank you very much, David.